Welcome to Crash Podcast, episode 9. This one is going to go a little bit different. I'm interviewing a guy that I'm just going to call Howie, short for his Instagram handle of HowAmISober. So this guy commented on a couple of my things, and then I started commenting on his stuff because I really like his style, and it's a little different. It's a whole lot of just words on screen, but if you really pay attention and look at the message that this man's sending, it's awesome. To give a little backstory, I believe as of this recording, you are 2 days away from 6 months sober. Is that correct?
That is correct. This Friday, I will be 6 months sober for the first
That
time in
is
20 years.
That is absolutely amazing, my friend. That is amazing. So we traded numbers. We started talking, and I really wanted to get him on an interview because there is so many people out there that have years and years of sobriety, myself and other people who have even a few years, and there's a detachment a little bit just because we're so far removed from it. But after having conversations with you, after seeing your posts, after seeing your perspective and outlook on things, it's huge, and it's very refreshing to see that somebody so freshly sober is so like just aggressive and going after it and real. There's a lot of reality in your posts that are as life comes at you, and
Yep.
that's awesome. I mean, because there's somebody out there who's going through some shit right now that I'm sure is drawing inspiration or relatable to your content.
And
So that's why I really wanted to do this.
ironically, when I first started the Instagram page, it was, I was I wasn't through detox. I was on opiates for 20 years. So, pause is very real. Post-acute withdrawal syndrome is very real. And it's probably one of the most daunting things when you Google. So if you are an opiate addict and you start looking at recovery and detox and you come across pause, then that's one of the things that kind of makes you hit the brakes on, running into detox so quickly. And after going through the first, say, 30 days or so, I needed an outlet. I needed some way just to get out of my own head and put something together. And that's where the Instagram handle came from. How am I sober? Because to be honest, at the time, I didn't really even comprehend the fact that I was, because it had been so long. Um, and then after going through that, I kind of found it as just a creative outlet and just realistically wanted to put facts out there that I wasn't told when I was younger or using, and that a lot of people in the upcoming generations, our generation, few older generations, likely may not know. So that's
That's
where it all came from. It was just really just an outlet to just speak what I know.
it, and you do it well, man. I appreciate the honesty. I appreciate how raw it is. I appreciate how real it is. So
Thanks,
yeah,
bro.
I really clicked with what you have going, and I've been begging you to get you on a podcast for I don't know a couple weeks, month or
Yeah,
so now.
yeah, it's
But
been a
hey,
while.
schedule's got to line up, life's got to line up. I get it. So in the general format of this podcast, I kind of walk through like what was some of the beginning, either even prior to addiction, like the traits, addictive tendencies or addictive behaviors prior to the drugs and alcohol, if you can identify.
So I actually can, and actually, ironically, took sobriety for me to actually kind of pinpoint a lot of what likely led to it. And aside from, say, family issues, divorces, and moving, and life things that everybody goes through, I realized that in almost everything I do, I tend to go just 0 to 100. There's no cruise control, there's no 80-mile-an-hour cruise control. There's none of that. I either just do it or I don't do it.
Yep.
And that's kind of how I learned in hindsight that it all began. And in reality, it snuck up on me without, it was a subconscious decision at the time. I mean, I was maybe 16, 17 when I got my first prescription for Vicodin for I had a tooth pulled back in the day, and
Yeah.
I'm sure you remember back in the day,
Oh yeah.
prescriptions were just handwritten, and there was a number, And no, they didn't write out, I got a prescription for 14 Vicodin. And of course, they just wrote the number 14. They didn't write the letters 14.
Yeah.
So me being a young kid and eager to try more, I went and found the right pen, and just one stroke turned that one into a four. So from 14, I went to 44. And sure enough, I thought that
Smooth
would be
move.
I know, right? Talk about a 16, 17-year-old kid, whatever, getting slick. And it worked, and they filled it. I picked it up, and that at the time seemed like a mountain of endless, you know, if I could in, whatever. And
Yeah.
slowly but surely, one day after another, it started to go away and get lower and lower. And then you make friends. And before you know it, you got three or four friends at any given moment, friends, quote unquote,
Right.
that are there for you when, your dentist doesn't want to write you another prescription.
Just pull another tooth.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of how it began, from a simple stroke of a pen.
Right. Then after that, like, so that was 16, 17, and I'm guessing got into maybe near 18. Where'd
Hmm.
life go from there?
So life was a trip from there, to be honest. It was quite a roller coaster. I ended up going to college. I got introduced to Oxy, the the older Oxy, the real Oxy that was.
Yep, I remember that.
Yep. And comically, the first time I tried it, I hated it because I passed out for 10 hours and I don't even really remember what else happened. But slowly but surely, my best friend, who I went to college with and dormed with, we moved across the country to go to school together. He was heavy into Oxy too, and he had a connection somehow at this school that was 1,300 miles away. That was a good friend of his, and he happened to be a dealer and had kind of an endless supply. And Oxy was cheap back then, it was what it was. And that's when it really became not just a daily thing, but an every 4 or 5 hour thing. And I found myself at that point, I recognized the problem. At that point, I knew I had a problem. I knew that I couldn't continue there, especially with my best friend, because that's probably the hardest peer pressure in the world.
Yeah.
And, so I made the decision to leave. At that point, I wasn't, you know, withdrawing the way you would normally after long, long, heavy usage. And so I left. I left school. I packed my car, drove back cross country, withdrew from college, went back to my house, and unfortunately, 3 weeks later on Thanksgiving break, my best friend had came home for Thanksgiving, obviously, and I had dinner with his family. And long story short, he wanted to go to a party. I wanted to hang out with a girl. The mom begged, or didn't beg, but said, "Listen, if Alex is going, oh, so and so is going to this party, then you can go to this party." So I told her I was going, and I wasn't. And unfortunately, that was the night that my friend overdosed and died.
Wow.
And yeah, that one, that was a dagger. That one really kind of left me paralyzed for a little while. And the first thing you want to do is use, obviously, in that
Yeah, numb the
situation.
pain.
Yeah, exactly. And given he had OD'd on a cocktail of multiple things, but long story short, I pretty much shut everybody out of my life. You know, did what I did some drugs, whatever. It was what it was at the time. And then I actually went back to school locally, non-matriculating. I had to prove myself to get back into school. I got back into school, but the habit never stopped. That was the real underlying issue. Is yeah, when he first passed away, he had texted me in the middle of the night at 3 a.m. "I love you. Don't do heroin." That was the last text I ever got from him, and I never have.
Wow.
Yeah, I've never done heroin specifically, but after I went back to school and was accepted and got in, it became readily available again. And it was
Mm-hmm.
one of those situations where some friends I had prior that hadn't used before were now using. So now I'm
That
reconnect.
happens.
Exactly. Now I'm reconnecting with friends that I thought maybe, they drank or smoked pot, whatever. But no, they were using Oxy at that time too. And so I fell right back into that habit with them. And from there it actually got a little more wild because somehow I graduated. I don't know how, but I managed to graduate with a decent GPA, and immediately at that point, I had moved in with a couple of roommates whose best friend was a dealer, so I had essentially an unlimited access to whatever. That's when Roxy's
Yep.
started became real popular, and
Yeah. I remember Roxy's.
yeah, that's when they got real popular, and so that's when I really started to go in.
Roxy's
And
always got too expensive for me, and I knew a guy who knew some crooked doctors, so I just got scripts for the blue footballs.
there you go. That's exactly what happened. After so then I moved again across country to essentially run a 12,000 square foot pretty big operation that had zero experience to run, but the keys were given to me, and the books were given to me, and there was nobody else, so I ran the joint. And I too had a friend there who was also an oxy or a oxy addict, call them the same thing.
Yeah. Yep.
And where I was at the time, unfortunately, was the pill capital of the US. And I'm sure I don't need to say where I was.
Yep.
So, so the prices for Roxy's got obnoxiously cheap. So the question was never, and unfortunately, yet unfortunately, I've always managed to be successful along the way. So
That's good.
financing, yeah, somehow I've always been a very functional addict. And that's
Good
both
and
been,
bad at the same time, because
I
sometimes
was
that
just
can draw it out.
blessing and a curse. I mean, it
Yep.
truly was because I've never in the 20 whatever some odd years I've been using, I've never been called out. No one's
Damn.
ever specifically asked me, except for once. But I think I'd gotten a bad batch, to be honest, because that was a whole nother story. That was a terrible episode. But Roxy's got so insanely inexpensive at that point. Like you said, you got a doctor, this doctor, that doctor. They weren't connected, and you would send one guy to three doctors, and he'd come back with three scripts.
Yep.
So
I remember that game.
it got to the point where I wasn't asking, can I get 10 or 20? It was like, how many do you have? Okay, I'll take them all. And
Yeah.
it became really consistent and got to the point where those friends of mine would end up coming to my work and just hanging out right around the time they knew I'd be running out. So they were, let's say, professional drug dealers. They knew what they were doing. They timed it very well. And so I'll just kind of run it down real quick. So the Roxy situation got really out of control. That was to the point where I could do three or four at a time and hit the road and be
Damn.
fine. Yeah,
Damn.
it
That's
got
a
really,
tolerance.
yeah, the tolerance got really absurd. And then I had a buddy up north who was my old Oxy Connect, and there was just a dry spell at one point for whatever reason. So I had him FedEx me a package of Oxy 80s. And the first week went through fine. And obviously the next week was a reorder. And then the next week was a reorder. On the fourth week, I went to go pick up the package and it said it was there, but they wouldn't release it. She couldn't find it. It got a little fishy. Obviously, I got a little paranoid, but the Oxy was more important. So I
Yeah.
left, came right back, and sure enough, they had set up a undercover that was tracking my packages. Yeah, and immediately I pulled out of there. He pulled me over. There's 4 or 5 cops. They all lined up, and this is another part where addicts are blessed with a silver tongue, but on the other hand, that's also a curse because
Yeah.
I was I was pulled over and I was young, I was cocky, and he wanted to search my car. I gave him permission. Didn't think twice. I gave him consent. And I didn't know he could open a sealed FedEx because I hadn't opened it yet. So in my
Yeah.
mind, I didn't think he could open it until
Yeah.
he came over to the cop car and was like, he had 27 oxys in his hands and had me dead to rights. But I talked myself out of it. Somehow, this undercover narcotics detective let me go in that moment.
Damn.
I don't know what I said or how I managed to get out of that because he had me dead to rights. I mean, you
Yeah.
couldn't. It was what it was. So, long story short, he said I had a year to give him information on dealers. Right. That's how he let me go. So we never spoke. Long story short, we never spoke. But 364 days later, there was a warrant put out for my arrest
Oh shit.
and for the possession. Now, even more kind of comically and ironically, but I was leaving work late, 2 a.m. I was closing up, and then I went and picked up again from my buddy. And the number thing is wild because that detective got me with 27 Oxy 80s. I went and picked up 27 Roxys that night because that's all he had left.
Yeah.
Well, actually, he had 30, but I did three while I was there. So I was leaving. I was going home with 27. Let's just be honest, right?
Yep.
So I'm heading home, and I'm in a 45 doing 58, 59, something like that. Cop pulls me over, generic speeding, and tells me there's a warrant for my arrest. And I tell him, you got the wrong guy, blah, blah, blah. He doesn't care. He's got to do his job and take me in. And he was
Yeah.
nice enough to where I didn't, whatever. So, okay, you got me. And not to mention, I'm already half numb. So it's not really like my heart's not racing. I'm
Yeah.
already, halfway there. So I'm like, all right, let's do it. But the whole time I had the Roxys on me. And he had
Boy.
searched me, but he hadn't found them.
Boy.
Yeah. So he arrests me, put me in the car, drives me down the station where I get searched again. And now I'm nervous because I know that if you bring any kind of drug into jail, it's a minimum 1 year. Let
Yeah.
alone if you bring 27 fucking Roxys and you got a real problem, like
Yeah.
trying to distribute in jail, you got a real problem. So they search me again when I get there. They didn't find it. Then
Why?
I'm wait. I got. I'm waiting to go into holding. They search me again. They don't find it.
Oh my
Some
gosh.
somehow I made it to the cell with 27 Roxys on me to the drunk
You
tank.
were a king right there.
Well, I was a king, but I was also a potential target because I
That's
was in a,
true. That's true.
and it was, I think it was a weekday, luckily, but there was, 9, 10 other people in there. Half are crazy and drunk and wild and out screaming, yelling. And, and all I can think of is if one of these guys finds out I have these, I'm getting jumped. They're gone, and
Yep.
I'm getting jumped.
Yeah.
And I'm certainly not going to flush them because I'm an asshole and an addict at that point. And it is what it is. I'm not flushing them, and
Yeah.
I can't let them get caught. So sure enough, I went and sat on their little open toilet and managed to just mouthful all 27 at once.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
And
so
you're still here breathing.
somehow, some way, I've survived a lot of weird things that I don't think a rhino might survive. But
That's
nonetheless,
enough to fucking put a rhino down for sure.
well, so it's not funny, but my experience in jail that night that was it. Because obviously, after I took that amount, I was out. I was gone. I was passed the fuck
Yep.
out.
Yep.
Didn't wake up until one of the other, guys in the cell woke me up, and I had drool running down my shirt. I,
Sure. Yeah.
just completely knotted, blacked out. And I go and I see the judge, and I'm still, I mean, I'm high as a kite still, or at
Yeah.
least groggy as hell. I don't even really remember. All I really remember was just telling the judge, I need a lawyer. I think I need a lawyer, and I need to come back because I haven't been to court for a criminal offense before, so I wasn't really sure
Yeah.
what happened. So I just told him I needed a lawyer and I needed time to get one. Is that okay? He said, yeah, let me go. Boom, I was back out.
Yep.
So the cycle repeats, and you already know where that's heading. So
Yeah.
that's where uh, that's where things got a little. Actually, to be honest, that's where things got very interesting because for the longest time, even till now, I have a lot of anger towards that undercover detective because he could have, he had me dead to rights. He should have put me in cuffs and taken me in. And I'm not saying that would have changed anything. It's the past and it was meant to be. But had it only just taken me and maybe had a shot at getting sober 20 years ago, 15 years ago, it would have been nice. But
Yeah.
it,
Who knows?
who
Yeah. No,
knows, right?
I got
Exactly.
some thoughts like that. There's many times where, oh well, what if this happened? I could have got sober earlier. And but if I really think about it, I had many, many opportunities that I said, nope, I'm not ready.
Right? Endless. And you had to be ready. That's what
Yeah.
it really came down to. And
Definitely.
then I got off pretty easy to be honest, given the circumstances, but they didn't know about, obviously what happened while I was there. So
Right.
they let me off pretty simple. I had to do it was like 8 hours of community service and a year of drug court. Now drug court you have to pee you have to do a piss test in front of an officer. So there's no,
Been there.
yeah, there you go. All right, so you already know.
Yeah.
Now they give you that week or 10-day grace period where they expect you to piss dirty because you're going drug court. So as an addict, that's kind of unfortunately the timer's running down.
Yep.
Pretty
Let's go
soon
get
you're
fucked
gonna.
up.
Yeah, exactly. Let's max this
Yep.
thing out and let's just go
Yep.
for the fucking moon. And that's what I did. So I went on a bender. I went and stayed at a casino with a couple of girls and God knows did what. I don't even remember. I woke up one morning with nothing but a pink sock and a condom on. So I don't know what happened. But it
Nice.
must have been a wild ride. And that's actually when the dynamic kind of changed because after the very first time I even went to drug court, I nodded off. I was so messed up. I nodded off in the middle of the session with like 20.
I bet the judge loved that.
Bro, there's like 25 people in there and the judge and a detective and a cop and they're teaching everything about drugs, this and that. And I nodded off like towards the back of the room and someone in the class was like, "Excuse me, are we allowed to nod off in class? Is that okay?" And totally blew the whistle on me. And that's when
Fuckers.
I know, right? That's when the detective came and got me, or cop, whoever he was, and took me to the nurse, asked for my records. The nurse brought it up, asked if I've ever pissed clean since I've been there. The answer is obviously no. And the nurse he backed it up and said, yeah, no, this is it. He's either got to piss clean the next time or he's yours. So the cop told me, this is it, man. This is your last shot. You can either, piss clean or go to jail. Take a choice. So that's where a lot of things changed actually. So I ended up trying to detox for the first time in my life and talk about hell on earth. Um,
Mm-hmm.
that didn't go well. I don't think I lasted. The over under is 36 hours, a day and a half max. And I'm scrambling on Google to find anything just to take away the pain or anything for withdrawal symptoms from opiates and da 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 da. And that's when I came across, and we're going back a long ways now. So that's when I came
Cool.
across kratom, and kratom at the time was pretty well unknown. I don't think anybody really knew about kratom or anything about it at the time. The closest place that even had it was like 30 miles away from me. So me, I'm sweating. It's like 85 degrees out, and I'm dripping sweat and nasty and shaking. I hop in the car and I drive, 45 minutes, whatever, to get there. And they don't even sell it by, like, nowadays, forget it. It's disgusting what they do now with kratom. But then you would literally order by, like, either the kilo, quarter kilo. You would literally get a bag of just like
Damn.
natural ground kratom. And this was before anybody really produced like capsules or pills or synthetic or anything like that.
Okay.
So the bag worked though. That little half a kilo bag did its job for the withdrawal symptoms. Naturally, I didn't get high like previously, but that was enough for me just to not feel the withdrawals as much. That was a home run,
That's good.
and to double down on it, I could piss clean all of a sudden because they don't test for that,
Yep.
and it's a real random test actually to even test for kratom from what I'm told. So I ended up getting heavy into kratom early, all through drug court, and so I never really got sober ever.
Yeah.
Just tripled up on the kratom. So if you take extra, it does get you there. But what really got bad was when, I don't know if you recall the Spice days. I'm sure when they came out with the synthetic
Oh, yeah.
pot. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And
So
salvia before that.
yeah, there you go, salvia back in the day, exactly. So when kratom finally hit mainstream, you had all those engineers and loophole writers that know that on a federal level they can't get away with it, but on a state level they can get away with it. They start coming out with capsules, and then they come out with synthetic and everything else. So that
Mm-hmm.
became a daily thing. It would be a trip on the way to work, sometimes during work, and then on the way home. And before you know it, just like anything else, your whole day revolved around picking up and then picking up again and then going
Yep.
home. The lifestyle
Yep.
just doesn't work unless you're able to
It's
pick up.
it's amazing the disciplines we do for a drug or for
No
booze or
kidding.
for whatever. Yeah, it's amazing.
Done more for I've done more for drugs than I did for my girlfriend. I mean, it was just wild the kind of things I would do.
Yeah.
And then I noticed there was a point where the kratom had gotten so synthetic. There's a brand called OPMS Gold, and I don't mind naming all any brands that I genuinely dislike, because when they came out with OPMS Gold, I want to say that was the closest feeling I had had to Oxy in years, in like 2 3 years, because I took it and nodded out, and I was out for 3 hours, done. So obviously, I ran right back to the store. I'll take them all, and sure enough, they did. They threw in an extra 5 sample packs. And I became a regular there, and it just became kind of a normal staple in my diet. It was a morning, afternoon, night, and then turned to a 3 a.m. thing. I don't know what that is, or if everybody else has that problem, but as an addict, I always had a 3 to 4 a.m. problem where I'd wake
Mm,
up and have an insane craving, and I would use almost every night at
yeah.
3 a.m.
Damn.
Yeah, that was actually a real hard habit to break during detox, because getting my sleep schedule back on cue was, with the insomnia and everything, it was almost impossible. I'd wake up at 3 o'clock like clockwork, just reaching for something that wasn't there.
Yep. Yeah.
And then, so the OPMS Gold became really standard, but before you knew it, there were now 7 different types, 12 different types, and then all of a sudden you have a full buffet of different types of synthetic kratom. And they were so well processed that they were incredibly strong given the history of what I know. Like, I've
Yeah.
done Oxy, I've done Roxy, I've done Percocet, I've done Vicodin, like you name it, I've done it. Morphine, Dilaudid,
Yeah.
I've done it all. Everything except for heroin. I honored that text message.
I never
But
shot heroin, but I smoked it a couple times.
Okay, so there you go. Yeah, and I'm afraid of needles too. Thank God. Thank
Well, I got into
God.
needles, but not with heroin.
Fair enough. Fair enough. And so what really turned the tables was when I consistently still did Percocets, but they weren't as readily available at that time. They cracked down, all the pill shops got shut down, all
Yeah.
that went away. I remember driving to work and there was yellow tape all the way down the street, all the way down the road, and
Yep.
they were all locked up and DEA agents everywhere. And I called my buddy and I told him, everything you got, it's mine. No, nobody else, it's mine, and emptied them all out. But when it comes to the longer picture, it became less available. So essentially, I would do Perks or Vicodin here and there. I didn't really care for the oxys after they, turned them into the gel or whatever. But Roxy's became very rare. It was really just
Hmm.
Percocets or Vicodin that I would get from a
Yep.
friend, every other week or whatever. And then the kratom would hold me over in between. But then they came out with 7.0. And 7.0 is, huh, it's at least as hard of a withdrawal if you are taking a significant amount for a significant time period as Roxy's and Oxys were, to me at least. And I know everybody's different,
Damn.
but for me, and now naturally, I was taking an insane dose. I'll be completely transparent here. Got to a point where I found, so 7.0 came out longer ago than people actually know because it was available online
Okay.
and you could order wholesale. So obviously, trying to think value over anything else, most bang for your buck,
Right.
I would order
Damn
wholesale.
right.
And sure enough, I remember the very first time I took it, it was no different than an 80 Oxy 80 to me. It was insanely
Damn.
strong. It knocked me on my ass. And when I woke up, I was in shock, got in my car and went back and bought out the store. So that's where actually things really got messy because at that point I was overprescribed on benzos. I was prescribed, what was it, 55 2 milligram Xanax a month. So essentially, call it 2 bars a day.
Yeah,
I was
that's a
also
lot.
right. I was also prescribed 2 30 milligram Adderalls a day, which is like
That
a
seems
big.
kind of an oxymoron, but sure.
It's a huge doctor red flag, and this doctor just bypassed it by also prescribing a particular vitamin that was a loophole. So I could get the Xanax and the Adderall, and I had my own 7.0. So it got
Damn.
to the point, it got to the point where in the mornings, my day would start off with, you know, 60 milligrams of 7.0, 2 milligrams of Xanax, and 30 milligrams of Adderall, wash it down with the Red Bull, and we are off to the races. And
Damn. That is
that,
that's a little stronger than your average latte.
yeah, no kidding, right? That was my breakfast. That was every single morning, 8 a.m. and suit and tie, and sat in a boardroom and spoke and talked finance with a lot of big people and corporate and this and that, and nobody was the wiser. And
Damn.
to me, that was always wild to me. That now it's wild. Back then, you're slick as an addict. You have that sales technique just engraved in you. So I never got called out. Always performed. Always got paid. Was always functioning up until, ironically, up until I decided that I'd had enough of where I was, because at that point you could get 7.0 anywhere. Maybe a quarter mile, half mile from my house was a 24-hour gas station that sold
Mm.
the opiate product, and so that's where the 3 a.m. craving really got engraved. Because whenever I woke
Hmm.
up, I would just pop right down there and come back with the music blasting and take 4 tablets of 7-0 and have a great little middle of the night party. I don't know.
A midnight snack and then back to sleep.
Midnight snack. Yeah, there you go. So there was that, and then it got to the point though where I ran out of Xanax because I was taking an extraordinary amount of Xanax. I mean, I was not only taking my prescription, but I was buying somebody else's prescription of about, yeah, he had a prescript for 90 a month of 1 milligrams, which is basically mine, same thing, 45, whatever.
Those are
So,
there was the yellow bars and the white bars. I remember those.
do you remember the blue bars?
Yes. Okay.
Yep, those are the CVS brand. Those are always my favorite. Not that it matters.
I always ended up with either the whites or the yellows, but and I could never take them like consistently. I always just took them when I was coming down off of cocaine so I could go to sleep.
And that, you know what? That, to be honest, benzos, like I'm still tapering on benzos after I've been prescribed for about 14 years now, I think it is, at that
Damn.
dosage. And it's a whole different type of detox because the taper is so long,
Yeah.
and it really takes a lot of dedication, and I'm working on it. I'm still working on it because
Good.
I know it's a work
Good,
in
man.
progress. Yeah, and it's like sliver by sliver. It's not one of those things where you can just chop it in half and okay, I'm good. Because it physically,
Yeah. Oh
it
yeah.
physically. Oh,
It fucks with your physiology and it's yeah. I get
yeah.
it.
So I guess I could say the real kind of grand finale where things took a turn for the better finally, aside from any success in work, who gives a shit? And, that's all, who cares? But finally, it got to the point where I realized the cash flow burn was insanity. And I was somehow getting late on my bills, even though I was making really good money. But all that money was obviously pre-spent. It was already, dedicated elsewhere. If I needed gas or 7-0 or whatever, we all know which came first.
Mm-hmm.
So by the time there was a little window that had opened up, and I got in an argument at work with one of my bosses, and I was already looking to leave the company. And then a window opened up where I saw that my lease at my condo was coming to an end, and I could either renew it or stay. And then I got an influx of cash. I got a commission check that was bigger than normal, and I knew I had to do a liquidity grab just to leave, just to like, completely leave. So I did it. I sold everything, including my own car.
Damn.
Sold my car, sold basically at a fire sale at my house on Facebook Marketplace, come get it. And it sold, by the end of the day. I think it was literally one day my entire place was just empty. Empty.
Nice.
Yeah, it worked out pretty well in that regard. And I was just taking cash in hand. And one of the people that came to me, ironically, was one of the people from the convenience store. And her method of payment was a bag full of 7-0.
Boy.
And a big bag of 7-0 too. It wasn't like, yeah, she wasn't the owner, she wasn't the boss, so she really didn't care. So in her mind, hook this guy up with a ton of what he comes here twice a day for. And I told her, take whatever you want. It's all yours. Go to town. So she emptied out, the kitchen, the bathrooms, everything else, and that was that. So I somehow managed to leave my job on a decent note, have cash in hand, crack my lease without penalty, and I could leave. I could actually do it. So caution to the wind, fuck it. That life wasn't working out for me, and it was only going downhill. Making great money, but I'm not saving anything. I'm actually
Yeah.
behind. So burnt everything to the ground, killed the lease, sold the car, practically gave away everything I had except for clothing that doesn't fit anymore.
Yeah.
And so I moved across country again to a more remote place where I knew there'd be less likely. I didn't know a single person here. So I was like, all right, I don't know anybody. I'll just go there. The first week is going to suck, but I'll tough it out. It is what it is. So I got there, and within 24 hours, I mean, it felt just like withdrawing off the Roxy's, man. I mean, when I tell
Damn.
you, I was curled in a ball, sweating, and the only thing I can really remember that stood out to me as unique was, aside from the sweats and the shaking and everything that goes with opiate withdrawal,
Yeah.
was my eyes were constantly just like crying, tearing. I mean, I was
Yeah.
laying in like the fetal position, and for whatever reason, my eyes would just not stop watering,
Hmm.
and I was completely out at that point, and that lasted all of you know a day and a half, 2 days maybe. No, not long. Until I found another wholesaler online, UPS overnight a new batch, came right to the house, and everything was fine again for the moment in my eyes.
Mm-hmm.
But ironically, I had done everything I had done to attempt to start a new life at an age where I wish I had done it 20 years sooner or 10 years sooner, if I whatever, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
And I got significantly worse. So
Shit.
yeah, I was taking around like maybe 500 milligrams a day at most of 7-0, which is still a lot. I
Oh,
know.
damn.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot.
I know I say it loosely. It's a lot. But when I was there and I started ordering, I went back through wholesale, and now at this point, 7-O's come a long way. Now it's everywhere. It's mainstream, and
Mm-hmm.
there's sales and it's cheap online, everything else, which is horrible. I despise it. If I had the money and resources, I would attack all those companies with everything I have, but I don't, so I can't right now. But nonetheless, I got up to about 1250 milligrams a day. I was taking 250 milligrams of pop about 5 times a day of
Damn.
yeah, bro. I mean, I'd wake up, take the bar, take five of the 50 milligram tablets, have coffee. Somehow seem normal to people around me. I don't know how, but I guess that's the life we live sometimes. And that's when, luckily, as funny as it sounds, cash started running dry, and it was a almost forced detox. It got to the point where I was like, all right, well, essentials got to get paid. My phone can't get turned off. There's certain things that just simply cannot go down.
Yeah.
And so that's when it's so crazy to even think of out loud. I don't even know how. I don't even know how am I sober. I don't know, but I ended up going through. I used to trade a lot. I used to trade a lot of you name it, I've traded, but whatever. I used to trade a lot, and so I use all sorts of AI, Chat GPT, Grok, whatever. And in a conversation, just analyzing, I think it was Bitcoin at the time. I just kind of dug into it with Chat GPT completely randomly, and at first it was very reluctant to say or give any advice because of medical concerns and everything else. But like any AI, you can kind of, you know, sweet talk it the right way and get around those
Yeah.
barriers and put in your own
Hypothetically
little
speaking, if I were to make a movie about this, da da da. Oh yeah.
bingo.
Yep.
Yep. And you can even reinforce this is not for medical purposes, blah, 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 blah. And all of a sudden you get all the answers you need. So sure enough, nobody, and the wild part to me is that nobody knows. Like, bro, you're literally the only person that knows. As
There's a few
wild
out
as
there.
how wild is that, man? Like,
Right.
and here I am working again and everything else. But like in that moment when ChatGPT finally kind of linked up and got on page, it was so impressive to watch it dictate, or not dictate, but assist in the taper. And I didn't follow any guidebook. I didn't follow any Reddit posts. I didn't follow anything other than my own body. And it was to the point where I was tracking my heart rate, my sweat rate, my GI, my anxiety, headache, eyesight on a scale of 1 to
Damn.
10. And I could literally rattle it off in, if you asked me, I could rattle it off in less than a minute. And ChatGPT would tell me, okay, you're not at the threshold yet. See if you can go another hour. Once you hit a 5 or 6 on your heart rate, then it's time to take the next dose or whatever. And it worked. It fucking worked.
Nice.
Somehow it was substantially, and I say substantially by like 60% less painful of a detox than the opiate detox I've tried before.
Well,
And
that's good.
yeah, that's the only, to be honest, I don't know if I could have made it through without that, because it was so methodical with the chat GPT and it was so precise. I mean, hell, it even explains to me how to break a tablet into certain ways to get the right dosage. So tapered all the way down, and then eventually I put off D-Day for a little while. And then D-Day came December 19th of 25, and that was day one, and that wasn't, it was shockingly less painful than I expected. I was petrified.
Yeah,
Uh,
sure.
oh, yeah, I mean, you already
After
know.
all the withdrawal experiences you've had prior to this, that'd scare the
Exactly.
shit out of me.
Exactly. All I could think about was, all right, get loose clothing, get a lot of water, get Advil, and get ready to be in that bed for a week because it's coming. But it didn't, and it wasn't as bad. Now, granted, was I up and going for jogging? No. But was I able to communicate and have a conversation with somebody if I needed to, or do something I needed to do? I could actually manage to live. And but now, mind you, I'm still in a new part of the country where I don't know a single person. And then all of a sudden, you go through the phases, the nostalgia phase, the boredom phase,
Mm-hmm.
the overproductive phase,
Yep.
you know, and that's really where, patience, they say patience is a virtue, and it truly is. And patience is what really reinforced everything, because it just takes time.
Yeah.
And I needed to understand that, because going 0 to 100 isn't something that's possible in detox. It's just simply not.
Nope. Nope.
So sobriety is,
Detox and healing. No, it's way patient, long, and drawn out. And that's the
yep,
shitty part and the scary part. And sometimes the part that brings people back to using is that.
that's the big, I'll tell you, out of everything mentally, the patience part was the hardest part for me to overcome after having so much instant gratification for so long.
You
And
nailed
just,
it.
just being able to just
Yeah.
pop, good, great, let's go, to
Yep.
no, sit with this, acknowledge it, understand it's
Mm-hmm.
not life threatening, you're okay, let time pass. And eventually, I read a book that helped me a lot, actually. It wasn't a recovery book, it wasn't an addict book. I went to a couple NA meetings back when I had drug court. The one guy kicked me out of it. And I came across this book one day, and it was because I simply had nothing to do. I went to this bookstore in town, really small bookstore, and I found it's called The Slight Edge.
Never heard
And
of it, but I'll check it out.
a phenomenal book. Probably I would rank it top three I've ever read. I've read a lot of books. This book taught me how to use time in your favor,
Okay.
and the compounding effect of the little things we do every single day that change the course of our entire lives.
Mm-hmm.
And beyond a reasonable doubt, it changed my perspective on the whole patience part, because that was running very thin at one point. And then once I realized, and it has testimonials and everything in there, and it explains it in such a way that you realize that time and patience is a virtue, but time can be a weapon. And it can either be used against you or you can use it for yourself.
Yep.
And that stuck with me so hard that I started working out again. I started eating right again. I started just doing the little things I could, instead of eating the Cheetos, I ate pork chops or whatever.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
every little decision is what, he described as a slight edge. There's no miracle switch to change your life or to speed up time or to grant you patience, but you can make these little decisions that compound over time and let time work for you. So
Yeah,
I,
it's that concept's been said in many different ways, but yeah, atomic habits being one of them.
yep,
Yeah.
yep.
Yep.
And I never fully grasped it until I was just reading some of the testimonials, and there was one in there from an alcoholic who had said the same thing. He had never quite understood it until he read the book, blah blah blah. And instead of this drink, he ordered that drink, and one thing led to another, and all of a sudden he's sober for 20 years.
Nice.
And it was remarkable. Yeah, the testimonials in there are insane. Changed my whole perspective on time. And now I've found, I don't want to say I found peace, but I found comfort in not being afraid of time anymore. Because before it was a rush. Before it was, how am I going to not get sick? How am I going to coordinate this to get that?
Hmm.
And, budgeting enough. Okay, 80% of my income goes to drugs. Can I survive on 20% of my income? All of that
Yeah.
kind of fades away into the background. You just start thinking logically. As
Yeah.
weird as it sounds, you just start thinking logically. And then
No. When we've
I,
wired ourselves on that immediate gratification, because whatever it was, I want it now and I can get it now and I can eliminate the feeling or enhance the feeling now.
yep,
And then we have to go about life like everybody else does it. And no, instant gratification is a killer. And
killer.
that's not what we need. And we just
Exactly.
need small incremental pieces built consistently.
And tying back to my detox, which was, I didn't talk to a doctor. Nobody knew. Yeah, I mean, literally nobody knew except for
Damn.
ChatGPT.
Yeah.
And it came down to such a simple concept of the detox kind of system. And I saved it. I actually saved a lot of it because I think it could help a lot of future addicts, at least opiate addicts, um, in their detox process, because there's a standard rubric, so to speak, for
Hmm.
opiate detox. And that is not universal. That is not for everybody. We are all different. Our bodies all react differently to different substances.
Hmm.
And between myself and ChatGPT, I realized it's a real simple rule of thumb. Detoxing, it's not about quitting. It's about either A, not doing more and staying the exact same, or doing less. If you can just continue to do either what you're doing and less, a little less, doesn't even have to be a lot less, it can be 5% less, great. But if you continue doing that, inevitably you're going to be taking hardly anything in
Hmm.
however long it takes. I think my detox took somewhere around 60 days, 45 days of tapering, and then another 60 days, 90 days of pause. Pause might have been a little longer. I had phantom sensations for a long time up and down my arms. That was not
Shit.
fun. Yeah, that was really not fun. And in all honesty, my GI is still not stable. I'm going to be 6 months sober on Friday. My GI is still not stable. I have dark spots on my hands from kratom,
Damn.
and that's going to take likely another year. Is what it is. It's not. I put a little sunscreen on it now, and that's the best I can do, and that's all I can do. So it is what it is. But yeah, once cash flow ran up, the taper started to work. Once the taper started to work, I dedicated myself to it. Also, financially, I didn't have much of a choice.
Love how that happens sometimes. Yep.
Yeah, yeah, it was a good force of hand in that situation. And then before I knew it, D-Day came, it passed. I started to feel a little bit better and better and better. And then reality kind of creeps back into your line of sight. Whereas before, you're just trying to survive the day. That's it. You're not
Right.
looking at tomorrow or next month. You're just trying to get through the day. Then once I was sober, the big picture really smacked me in the face that I'm in the middle of fucking nowhere. I don't know anybody. And now I don't have a car anymore, which is probably one of the one things I would have changed, but didn't have a car, didn't have a job, didn't know anybody, didn't have a referral or a friend or fucking anybody. So, that's when luckily I was sober enough and, long enough and, you know, straight enough to get back out there. And I did. It was scary as shit. And the wild part
Hmm.
is how scary it is to go back out into the world once you're actually sober, especially if it's been a while. If it's been a year, it's probably exciting. If it's been 5, 10, 20 years, it's a little scary. I say a little loosely because, like, here I am, and it's been 20 years or so since I've been legitimately sober and had to have a real conversation with somebody with anxiety, natural, normal anxiety, or
Yeah.
stress, things that we should feel as people. Normally it
Hmm.
was just a quick dose, and I'd be fine. And now I had to
Yep.
actually feel it. And it was the first time
Hmm.
I felt something like that since I was 18 years old, maybe 19 years old. Hell, even dating, dating again. All of a sudden, I'm talking to women again. And I realized, yeah, no, I haven't done this sober in 20 years.
It's a trip. It's a
you
trip.
know, it's a
Think
little
you knew
muscle.
life, and then you got to relive life or relearn
Exactly.
life.
Relearn it all together. And the there's a lot of good parts to it though, and that's what to
Hmm.
me got me through. I mean, I gained a ton of weight. I don't Nobody told me about that part in any book or any Reddit post about when you detox on opiates, they call it opiate gut. And apparently when you take opiates, your stomach naturally clenches a little,
Hmm.
and when you stop, two things happen simultaneously. You run out of dopamine, you have no hits coming, but food, a full stomach, produces that dopamine hit. So you're out of it, and those first couple of weeks of being stone sober, you're just kind of surviving.
Yeah.
But you're kind of a zombie, and it's wild because when I left and moved cross country, I weighed like 145 pounds and I'm 6 feet tall.
Jeez.
So I was like,
Toothpick.
but I was toothpick, yeah. And by the time I realized about the eating, because it happened so quickly, I mean,
Yeah.
good Lord, I mean, in a matter of maybe um whatever, since I moved and then realized I was eating just to supply dopamine, and I had to actually ask ChatGPT, why the fuck am I eating so much? I went all the way to 217.
Damn, son.
Yeah, bro. And when you think of it, it's almost like remarkable body like ratio of how much weight I actually gained. It's like 40% of my body weight was gained.
Yep.
So that in turn pushed me into working out again because nothing fit. All my clothing now shot too. So I was in sweatpants and a shirt. That was my only outfit I could wear. And it's not like I had money to go shopping. So
Right.
now I'm in a new state and da 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 everything else. So that prompted me to start walking, jogging, lifting,
Good.
and yeah, that was really it. Because I mean, aside from not having any clothes that fit, which was insane, I knew it was a bad look. Let's just say that it wasn't a good look. It wasn't 217 and cut. No, it was a bad look. So I ended up jogging and like the fucking snow, man. It was at the point where there was a lot of snow on the ground, and I just didn't give a shit anymore. I was just determined to, even if it was a half a jog, because it was too fucking cold. I'd be out there in 32 degrees jogging my ass off like an idiot. But
Good, man. Good.
yeah, and
I mean, let's flip that. Flip that to about a year prior. If it was 32 degrees and you had no car and you were trying to go get a sack, you would have done it.
oh, I would have
I would
sprinted.
have done it. I
I
would
would
have
have
walked
done
my
it.
ass to the store in socks if it was snowing to get a bottle, to get a bag, whatever.
Exactly, with no
To go to
hesitation
Kmart
either.
at 2 a.m. to buy a light bulb.
Right, right, with zero hesitation.
Yeah.
And now it was just like sheer willpower, just sheer, whatever. But it was more. It wasn't willpower. It wasn't anything special. I'm not special. There's nothing special about what I did. It was just the timing of the circumstances. And the biggest thing for me to actually cross over detox and actually be able to, I still can't believe I can say I'm sober. To actually be able to say that I am sober, it was patience, man. That was the biggest fight over the physical. You can deal with. You can white knuckle
Hmm.
it a little bit. It is what it is. It sucks, but so be it. But the patience part is what really changed the game for me. Once I understood that I can let time work for me, it's not going to happen overnight and it ain't going to happen in an hour. But in a month, I'm going to see something. In
Yep.
3, I might
Hmm.
be pretty proud of myself. In a year, I'm likely not going to be living in this rural, where the fuck am I place right now.
Looks pretty peaceful though. Gotta say.
Well, this is about the nicest place I can find. And
All
luckily it's
right.
on my way home. So this is my little decompression area. But so yeah, man, that patience served me in the hardest way possible and in the best way possible. And it wasn't until I learned how to accept it as a weapon that I can use that changed everything for me. My mindset now, I genuinely, I'm pissed at my doctor for over prescribing the shit out of me for so long. That's unethical as fuck. But who's to blame? It's not really him. It's also me. It's mostly me, all me. And I mean,
I
come
like
on.
that little acknowledgement there.
Yeah, let's put the blame where it belongs. I went there. I went to him. And yeah, I don't know, man. It's 6 months. To be honest, and I mentioned this to you the other day. It's wild how our brain works because I've had cravings that I thought would subside. I really genuinely thought after like 3, 4, 5 months, I just, I'd be over it. But
Hmm.
all it took was, it wasn't even a bad day. It was just a boring day, to be honest. It was really just a nothing going on, slow, boring day. And I found myself at a vape store getting a vape. I still vape.
Yeah.
And I found myself in there and I'm staring at a rack of 7.0. I didn't even realize it. I'm standing there right there, just staring at it. And eventually I was just like, oh my God, what the fuck am I doing? All right, I'm out of there. I turned around and ran out of there.
Right.
But, you know, the journey's just begun for me. 6 months is exciting. I'm a little nervous about it only because on not every, but I've had some real hardships on my anniversary dates. For whatever reason, it's just random. So I'm hoping this Friday is just a good, calm, normal day. That's all I want. I'll go. I'm actually off too, so maybe I'll do something for myself. I have no idea what. But yeah, 6 months on Friday, and I wouldn't have ever imagined if you told me a year and a half ago, a year ago, fuck, even 8, 9 months ago, I wouldn't believe you. I wouldn't. I
Oh
mean,
yeah. I know that feeling. Dude,
there.
for what it's worth, I don't know you, but I am absolutely. I don't obviously know you other than the few conversations we've had, but for what it's worth, I am absolutely stoked for you. That is a hell of a journey. And for you to be able to work through that to where you're at now is fucking huge.
I appreciate it, bro, because nobody knows. No, I mean, like the people I work with, they have no clue. They think I'm a straight
Yeah.
fucking arrow.
Yeah. No, we're protecting your anonymity, absolutely. And I I don't even know your first name. So and let's
Yep,
leave it at that.
yep.
So but definitely stay and connect. So
Of course.
when and if you decide to announce yourself, I'll be right there to cheer you on. 100%.
And the time will come. And to be honest, it's one of those things that I'm really looking forward to, because at that point, it's almost like I'm free.
Yep.
It's this big hidden secret that even my own family that's left is clueless. No, like my best friends, nobody knows. So the day I can actually tell them, like, ever since we were in high school, I haven't been sober until I was, fucking 40.
Yeah.
So it's been a ride, man. It's been a hell of a ride. You've got the stories, I've got the stories. We could go on for hours, but
We could.
we're here.
Speaking of, we've hit almost an hour, dude. I'm happy to keep going, but I know you got to some friends to meet up with, so I just wanted to get to a point where we can like. I would love if more people come and follow your story because it's inspiring, especially to those who are freshly trying to take on a new perspective and a new design for their life. It's
Yes.
huge.
And
And you are absolutely in touch with it, obviously, because of the time spent is not even 6 months to this moment right here. Um, that being said, how am I sober? All one word is this wonderful man's handle. Other than that, are you on any other platforms right now, or just
yeah,
mostly Instagram?
so I am on TikTok, same handle.
Okay, okay,
So how am I sober? I've kind of just kept it generic. Email howamisober@gmail.com. Somehow
okay.
the name was just widely open. So I just, I hopped on it. It fit. It was authentic, and I ran with it. And it's like my Instagram. It's not. I'm not a big editor. I don't really know how to edit that well. You can probably tell in my videos.
Dude, it keeps it simple. It keeps it authentic. All that over edited shit nowadays is losing popularity, honestly.
Yeah, it's how I feel too. It's just all AI and auto generated, and for me, I just in that moment think of what's most important, pressing on my mind, put it out there, and hope it helps somebody. Because
That's awesome.
per the biggest thing for me that you already touched on is if it can help one person, I don't care where they are in the world, one person, just know that there's a way out, and it's
Mm-hmm.
not as. Is it hard? Absolutely. Are you going to question yourself? 110%. But are you capable of doing it? Yes.
Yes. Yes.
And that's the bottom line. Is it uncomfortable? You'll get through it. Does it hurt? You'll get through it. Will it be better? Yes. So what's the
Mm-hmm.
so what's the big question, right?
Yep.
Do what we got to do.
Yeah. Yeah, we stick with the devil we know so long that the devil we don't know, who may be an angel, is more scary.
Amen. Ain't that the truth? Ain't that the truth, brother?
Howie, thank you very much for all of your time this evening and the wonderful view that you've provided. I'm kind
I,
of bummed we didn't get a mask, but hey, it is what it is.
I tried.
It is what it is. Dude, this has been a great interview. I very much thank you for your time and the view of the beautiful sunset. So, with that being said, please go check this man out on How Am I Sober at Instagram, on TikTok. Right now it is Wednesday the 17th. I will actually be releasing this next Wednesday.
Very cool.
So look for some, and I'll look for some sneak peeks coming up. And Bjorn from Hold My NA Beer, thank you everybody for listening. And you got it. You can do this. It's
You,
not that
Bjorn.
hard.
Hey, Bjorn, I want to tell you, man, I appreciate you, because when I started that Instagram page, like I said, it was nothing but a creative outlet, something just to pour my thoughts into. And
Yeah.
you were so genuine right off the bat that I connected with you just because you were real. You were authentic, you were
Thank you.
real, and that meant a lot to me, especially in that moment, because you know how that moment is,
Fuck
and to
yeah.
have, and nobody knows. So to have somebody genuinely, authentically reach out and be, you know, happy for you, that, I held on to that. So that meant a lot to me, man. So I appreciate you having me on here. I appreciate you on Instagram and everywhere else. And, this is a friendship I plan to hold on to.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. I very much appreciate that. That is the entire whole reason why I started Hold My NA Beer. Because I was always that motherfucker who was, you don't think I can do this? Hold my beer, watch. It's just changed to NA Beer now
Yep,
because I don't need the beer.
exactly.
Um, and I've always been a fuck what they think. They can think what they want. I'm going to be me.
Hmm.
Wasn't always the best choice, but I've learned to convert that into the best choice.
Yep,
And I am me. You get me right now. You get me at my job. You get me with my wife. You get me with my kids. I am me. I don't
that's
change too much.
I love it, man. 'Cause that's how I am. That's how I live. And, I can't walk a fake life anymore. I'm past that.
Nope. Nope. That life's too short to do that for myself, for
Exactly.
those around me.
And we've lost enough friends where we all know that for sure.
Ain't that the truth?
Yep.
Well, all right, brother. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody who's listening to this. Y'all have a wonderful night.